here we have Derrick, him from South Carolina, who says, I've heard y'all say you don't choose what you're convinced of. I have nuanced thoughts on that.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
curious, what is this about?
Yeah.
Hello,
Hey,
Derrick. Hello?
Hello, Derrick.
Did I not take this call?
Derrick.
Okay,
Derrick.
hello there.
Hello?
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we hear you.
Hey.
Okay, great. Okay, so Shannon, I was wondering if you are familiar with something called the locus of control.
The locus of control? Yeah. That just means that the locus just
Is that a real thing? Is that a real
important.
thing, or is that pseudoscience?
When you say, like, what do you mean when you say locus of control? Though? Like, I'm familiar with it as a term.
Like they say that there's some people that can tend to see ghosts, and they tend to see UFOs and Bigfoot, and there's other people that, like for me, example, I didn't ever think I saw a ghost or I think I saw a UFO. I don't have any of that. So they would say that I have a high locus of control, where other people that tend to see ghosts, they have a low locus of control.
So locus of control means like where the control lies. That's what locus means, is where it lies, right? So the locus of control, like if somebody says you have a high locus of control in and of itself, that wouldn't make a lot of sense unless you contextualize it to where the locus is. So are they saying that you have like a locus of control as though like you're personally in control of your perceptions? Is that what you're attempting to try to say? As opposed to an external locus of control, like an internal locus versus external? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, I'm just learning about it, so I have questions about it.
Okay.
So I guess back to what I told the lady at the call center. I want to know if people do actually control what they believe by avoiding literature and videos that might change their mind.
Oh, okay. I understand the question.
Their locus of control would be, I can see that if I believe the Earth is 10,000 years old, then I will avoid looking at all the James Webb Telescope images, because they're just going to say that this thing is 13.7 billion years ago, and this is, they don't like to. They want to avoid that.
Yeah. So I would say that you have control over what you expose yourself to, but not control over what you find compelling.
What you're convinced of.
Right. Yeah. I don't think you have control over what you're convinced of, but you have control over what you expose yourself to. Yep. Sure.
Right. So,
to a certain degree.
The other week,
AP could just start yelling crap right now, and I don't have any control over that, and I'd probably hear it. It's been my whole afternoon. Sorry, I keep going. Go ahead.
Ask you. You got upset with a caller that claimed that people that believe in God have mental illness, and I don't believe that. But I do believe that it's also not Dunning-Kruger. I think there's another block, a mental block, that they do have control of, that is keeping them from absorbing the information that would definitely change their mind.
So you're talking more about dissonance then, potentially.
Right? I think that is not really what locus of control is about. I remember learning about that very briefly during my during psychology, but I don't think that that focuses on this. But you would be saying what you're talking about is rather a cognitive bias in that you want to believe in certain things based on your own internal will to just block out information that might change your beliefs. You have certain confirmation bias and other biases that direct you toward believing what you want to believe in.
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
so are you saying you can control your biases? Is that what you're trying to say? That like people selectively...
A very short example.
Go ahead.
I have a very short example. Okay, so somebody that I've been talking to about whether God exists, I don't believe, and they do. They said they found some evidence for me that there's the mitochondrial Eve, and it proves that all humans came from one woman, and one man.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, like thousands of years.
I know that's not true. And there's also multiple mitochondrial Eves that go up to 200,000 years ago. And so when I show them a convincing video that educates you on what mitochondrial Eve is, it's basically no, that's not true. And I'm not going to continue watching something that might change my mind. And where Matt or somebody else might say, you can't control what you're convinced of.
I agree with that.
Clearly, they are choosing to control what they believe.
No, I don't think so.
How does that not something not mental illness, but a barrier in the mind that's keeping them from going the next step?
It is a cognitive bias. I mean, I would say that there is still something at play, which I would say many of them don't really have much control over, but to a certain extent also do have. Like just this morning, for example, I had a discussion about reincarnation, and people were basically giving me sources which apparently supposedly prove that reincarnation is true, and most of those sources were blog posts or a very dramatically done documentary, just things that don't prove anything, but things that rather appeal to a confirmation bias that people have. Whereas if you present them alternative explanations, they will just block those things out because it's convenient to ignore things that change your beliefs. I think that that there is a mix of factors at play here. The one thing is people want to be comfortable and they don't want to be faced with different things that might change their beliefs. On the other hand, I think people also unknowingly, without intending to do so, hold on to their beliefs, which make them feel, warm and comfortable. So there's something within them, a bias, which blocks them from learning new information which might change their beliefs. It is scary. Humans feel scared of learning new things that might put them into new territory that
do you think
might shake their entire world.
Just like a bravery thing? Are you saying this is just like a bravery thing?
Not necessarily. It is just I don't know if I can make it as simple as that, to make it about courage either. It is just a bias that people
I think it's important that it's not a choice, though. Like cognitive biases aren't something that we go, today I'm going to just choose to not allow any contrary information in at all whatsoever. Like that's not something that.
So you're saying it's kind of like you're either an introvert or an extrovert, and you can't control that.
Not entirely. It's more so what I'm saying is, move your lips, hey peep, so that it looks like you're saying this because you're on the screen right now. I think. More so what
I don't know why I'm here, but
I know, just move your lips a bit. More so what I'm saying is that you can't change what it is that you're compelled by, right? So these people that are like, AP just did a pretty good job of explaining it. These people that are exposed to something that like butts up against their belief, that creates dissonance. So they end up having cognitive dissonance about what's going on. That's sort of an uncomfortable feeling. And people have basically three choices when they have dissonance. One is to change their mind and accept the contrary information is accurate. The second is to like ignore or dismiss it. And the third is to like live in that feeling and that those are your only three choices, and just to live in that discomfort and just kind of like try to find a way to block it out. A lot of people will choose options 2 and 3. They'll either they'll live in that discomfort and try to find a way to block it out and just dismiss it entirely, or they'll attempt to incorporate it into reconciling with their existing belief and misrepresent it cognitively and internally. Not very many people will say, oh, okay, well, now I'm just going to change my mind. But that's not a conscious decision. It's not like people say, well, I could do one of these 3 things. I think I'm going to, even though I know this is true, I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to find a way to justify it by like pushing it up against other things I already believe, or attacking the person it came from, or saying that I don't like the source that it came from, or mistrusting where the information came from. Those are all things that we do inherently. We don't make choices to do them. We're just kind of just the way we're wired, right? It's not.
Yeah, I encounter a lot of people who are accused of lying, but what they're actually doing is they're lying to themselves in order to hold on to certain beliefs that they want to hold on to, and they are not even aware that they are lying to themselves. It is just something that they react with because it makes them feel more comfortable, and they feel like they need to do this, but they have no control over that. It's a bias. It's a cognitive bias, and it's probably something natural, and it has explanations, like in evolutionary psychology, that it is done, for functional purposes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hear you, and you both did an excellent job at answering my question, but I still feel like there's some kind of hard wiring that changed Matt's mind. Matt Dillahunty was, the model Christian and looking to fulfill his promise of 1 Peter 3:15. He wasn't able to do it. He got out, and I just feel like that was a choice.
So you think that he was exposed to, like,
it wasn't a choice?
I don't think you can say that. I can't speak for Matt, but I think that he would agree with me when I say that whatever it is that finally tips the scales for you isn't something that you get to pick. It's a thing that happens to you. It's a thing that happens to you. You're not exposed to the same information over and over and over again and go, you know what? I know it's true. However, even though I know it's true, I'm going to choose not to believe it. And then you do that 150 more times. And then one day, for whatever reason, you say, well, I guess today's the day that I'm going to, admit that I know it's true. It's something tips the scales for you. You can stack the deck by choosing what you expose yourself to. You can actively go out and attempt to pursue information, which is, I think, a great way to live, to attempt to pursue information that may contradict you so that you can make sure that you're consistently challenging yourself. That's a great way to live, I think. But not many people will do it. And even that isn't a guarantee that the thing that you're even going to expose yourself to the thing that tips the scales.
And maybe you're even doing that because of things in your life.
Do you think in the future there could be a real life red pill and blue pill?
No.
Like it will be in real life one day where you can take the pill that will give you release that block so that you can see the evidence for what it is.
I don't think it's possible. I always think I am currently at a situation, at the state that I am as an ex-Muslim and atheist or whatever I am, because of factors that are largely out of my control, or out of my control at stages when I was more intelligent and educated. Much of what I am today depends on things that happened before I was born, on my genetics, on things that happened throughout my lifetime. If things had gone slightly differently, I might have ended up being a completely different person, as I'm very much at the mercy of lots of things that happened that are completely out of my control, which is kind of a sad thing to say, to believe in, but I guess I think that's the best explanation that I have.
I think it's just true.
What about split brain, Shannon?
What about split brain? What
about split brain, Shannon? What about split brain, Shannon?
The course of colossum or whatever that
corpus callosum. It's not a procedure that happens very frequently anymore. It was mostly done as a way to solve epileptic seizures, to resolve them for people.
Right, but one half atheist and one half theist or something.
I've heard somewhere somebody say that. There might be one example of that, but I think a lot of people misrepresent a lot of the split brain science. It doesn't say quite as much as people on both sides act like it does. It's fascinating from a perceptual perspective because you can control you can control exposure to visual fields and test all kinds of interesting things about the brain and how it constructs information as a result of controlling exposure through visual field. But it doesn't have anything to do with, decision making.
Yeah,
what I can gather.
You just said
but I think it was a very interesting conversation.
Gather evidence. Didn't you say it helps you change the way you gather information?
You can gather all kinds of interesting information when a person has a split brain, because you can control visual field exposures, because we process vision bilaterally. So we have two different visual fields. Like everything on the right side of us is hits the left side of our eye, and then is processed also on the left side of our brain, and vice versa, because it crosses over at the optic chiasm. But that, like, it's all. So all I'm saying is that what we can do is we can expose people to things in one visual field and something different in a different visual field, and then ask them to respond. Usually whatever's in the right visual field, you'd be able to get a verbal response, because the Wernicke's area is over on the left-hand side. Generally on the left-hand side, you'll only be able to get some sort of response to things on the left visual field by using your opposite hand to write it out, because you're not going to be able to articulate it. So we find out things like that. So it's just a way of gathering interesting information, but that wasn't me talking about the brain itself gathering information better or different than or worse than.
Thank you for.
And I think we are done here today.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
I think that was a very interesting conversation. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hey, I had to listen to Hadiths. You have to listen to brain stuff. That's the rule. Fair trade.
No, it was very good. It was very enlightening. But Ed, Derek, thank you so much for the call.